This is the Facility Expansions Committee report out for January 2020 to let the congregation and also the council know exactly where we are at this time. The council asked us to communicate to the congregation so there's an understanding of why we need to build a building. We have had part of this in the bulletin for the last 2 months, but we feel we need to build a building to fulfill our mission at Shepherd the Hills. We need to expand our church. Our focus is on fellowship area, classroom space, and the narthex. Currently, we have rough drafts for a 3,000 square foot addition. We hope to start building in 2021. We've printed the Shepherd the Hills mission statement that is in the bulletin every week below. We would like to share with you exactly when and how we expect to build. So the following charts we need to go through. The first one is the average attendance in church. The second one is exactly how much do we have in the building fund. And the third one is really how we expect to be. The Facility Expansion Committee was actually formed in about 2013, 2014, really. And at that point, we had this chart, and we did some expansion of where we thought we would be in 2021. And we thought on average, probably 281 people would be coming to church at that time. Currently, last year, the average was about 203. The reason we really want to look at this information is this is really how many people we need to expect to use the facility. This isn't a real concern that we see a decline in attendance. We've also gotten much better at the electronic worship services that are on the website that people can listen to. In 2014 and 15, we met with the congregation. We got the wants of the congregations, the needs for the facility, the needs for what ministries we would need, and we came up with a very good layout that meets all of it. That layout, however, came in at about over $2 million. The money that was coming in for the building facility did not meet that. It wasn't enough money to help with a $2 million building. So we've kind of started over. Our goal is to only do $900,000. And I want to show you why $900,000, why that is able for our church to do. So here is the building fund that we have today. In 2016, it was at about $132,000. Since then, we've been growing, and currently at the end of 2019, we have $318,702 in that fund. When you look at over just the last year, year and a half, the average giving is about $45,770 a year, or $3,770 a month. This led the council to believe that that amount of money could be put toward a mortgage. So if we take a look at that, how much money could we really borrow and have that be our monthly payment? And that will be in the next slide. So this is actually how we plan to build, or how we plan to afford it. So if you look, the blue is the $318,000 that we talked about that is already in the building fund. The gold is $570,000, which we should be able to easily get a loan for if we can pay $3,770 per month. The green is $131,000. About 4 years ago, when pastors went to the congregation, there were people who promised that if we were going to build, they would give a one-time fund for that building, and that was $131,000. Now we would have to go back and see if there was still that kind of commitment from the congregation, but roughly this shows us that we probably have $1 million to work with, maybe, right? But definitely the $900,000 we should be able to afford. And then if you look, if we waited till 2021 to break ground, because there's so much work that we need to do before we break ground, we would have additional $45,000. So we feel very confident that we are ready to be able to afford and to move forward for a $900,000 building. With the budget of $900,000, the council asked the Facility Expansion Committee to go and look at different layouts that would actually only be to that budget, not the $2 million layout that we have been looking at before, but really what could we afford at $900,000. They asked this about, oh gosh, it's probably been about half a year ago or so. And the committee has been very, very busy looking at different plans. And we'd like to show you some of those plans now. And we really wanted to be able to utilize that money in the most cost-effective way. One of the first things we looked at is to actually start building to the west. This wasn't that much of an option when we first started looking at where to build because we didn't own the woods that is to the west of the building. We wanted to utilize that land. We also wanted to utilize the poured slab that was already under the current fellowship hall. We felt that that would save some money, but we would still have to require some constructions to the north. When we got done looking at this, it wasn't as cost effective as we had anticipated. Then the committee looked at what if we were to build a building that was post and beam construction. That particular kind of construction tends to be less expensive. And so we would look at actually a separate building. We could still utilize the land that was to the west, and we could save all of our current parking lots. This was a very good option, but we couldn't get it to look from the outside, from the entrance. We couldn't get it to really look like a church, so we struggled with this one. We were then able to take that same concept, but to do a building that would be a connector between them to really make it look like the church that we all want it to look like. The trouble with this particular thought was we had difficulty in then adding a second uh, phase when the church actually needs to get a little bit bigger than it is even currently today. So it was an idea. It turned out to cost more than we were expecting it to cost. This is a proposal that we have all agreed to is the one to go forward. So this is just over 3,000 square feet. We believe that it will come in at about $900,000. It does answer our needs of what we said we needed. It would actually move the pastors and Amy's office to the north and would actually give them ability to use an entrance right off of the parking lot. It does minimize the amount of parking spaces that we will lose, but it does require that we would have to take the current fellowship area and change it into classrooms, and this work would be done by the congregation. I did put a little note in here of where Pastor Berger's office is, so it's a little bit easier to tell exactly what is the church we have currently and what would be added. But this is the proposed layout for phase one, and this is what we are hoping to accomplish in the year 2021. We wanted to do a phase two, and this would be what we would do after we have paid off the phase one if the church is still growing. We wanted to make sure that we left areas so we could expand the church. As you can see, the sanctuary has the back wall moved about 16 feet, which will allow us 3 additional rows of pews, and this will accommodate growth in the area of our church. It also puts on a larger fellowship hall, which is probably going to be the next real need that we're going to see in the coming years. But we want to make sure that we protected the area and made sure we had a plan for expansion. Okay, so those last two proposals, phase one and phase two, are out on the website. They're in PDF files, so the congregation can go and really get an understanding of what the vision is of the building that's coming. The next steps that we want to do is we actually use this presentation to update the council, and now we're using it to update the congregation. The Facility Expansion Committee is going to work with Mayot. They are actually our architectural firm to see if this layout is plausible and to make sure that it comes in at $900,000. A final presentation will be made to the council and then to the congregation with timelines and cost estimates for final approval. So this particular presentation is just to update the congregation of exactly what has been going on in the Facilities Expansion Committee, where we are, and the direction that we're heading. Again, our goal is to break ground We look forward as the whole layout is finalized to really involve all of the church, to go back to this presentation or this slide that we have shown before and say exactly what uh, groups in the church will help in what areas of the expansion, to really finalize what we want it to look like, where it's going to go. So we look forward to the whole church being involved as we expand to do the work of Christ.